Hi, I'm Jann Pascua, Art Director of Vogue Philippines, and this is In Vogue. Welcome to Vogue Philippines Wellness issue, where fashion and beauty meet care and community. For our May issue, we are putting health and wellness at the forefront of our storytelling. What we particularly love about the turnout of this issue are the set of individuals who have carved out their own spaces to thrive and define their unique ideals on advocating and achieving wellness, but more importantly, using it as a tool for greater purpose. At the core of this issue, purposeful living became our foundation in defining wellness. So here on the cover, we have Pom Klementieff jumping off of the hot air balloon. And if you get this copy, you actually get access to 3 covers of Pom. Her in mid-flight during skydiving and another fashion editorial in motorbiking. Of course, when it comes to wellness, sports can be a great outlet for one's journey. But we figured how interesting it would be if we view it from the lens of someone whose form of physical outlet for wellness falls under the category of extreme sports. It's so interesting that, of course, you don't really think about it for a wellness issue, but in hindsight, there is that sense when you're passionate about what you're doing, when you have that sense of purpose. That in itself is a good example of what wellness can be and what wellness can represent. As we were planning this, we actually had to, of course, get professionals to be part of this shoot. And since Pom is very, very much active and well connected in this particular type of sport, she's the one who gathered the team for this particular skydiving layout, where we got cinematographer Craig O'Brien to photograph Pom Klementieff mid-air during the jump. And what's interesting about it was, as we were firming up the details, we were wondering, how many times are you willing to do this? Is this a one-time shot kind of thing, one jump and you capture everything that you need? And she was like, no, I'm willing to do it as many times as I can, as long as we get the cover. And that particular energy and that particular determination was really admirable for Pom. And true enough, on the day of the shoot, she was very, very much game to do it multiple times, just so we can get the cover for this particular layout. We worked with creative duo Domen and Van de Velde, where we captured Pom in a more fashion-centric approach in terms of telling her adventures through different aspects, like whether it's through motorbiking, through boxing, and even capturing moments of having a sense of flight. So when we were meeting with the creatives, we wanted to have that creative dialogue also between creatives and how they envision and how they wanted to tell the story. So with the fashion shoot in particular, they were very much open to making sure that the fashion images also reflected the skydiving images in one cohesive manner. So we were lucky to be working with creatives that are very, very much open to making these adjustments, making sure that everything feels cohesive and seamless as we integrate the studio shoot with the location shoot. As you can see here in the second cover, Pom is actually wearing a parachute rig that was gifted to her by Tom Cruise. And Pom specifically chose the design for this parachute rig that was designed by visual artist James Jean. We had this discussion with our fashion team and with the styling team, to possibly have her in silhouettes or clothing that, of course, would still be fashion forward. But at the same time, her safety is our utmost priority. So we wanted to make sure that she's comfortable and she's able to move in the skydiving activity that she was gonna partake in. Obviously, she's wearing her own gear here, which is why it's interesting to note the parachute rig that she's wearing it's of sentimental value for her as well, which is quite cool. And then when you flip to the next page, we have this juxtaposition of a parachute layout that was done in studio, which was initially shot upright, But as we were going through the pages, we figured it might be more interesting to flip the page to have that sense of dynamism with her image with the parachute and jumping off from the plane. She's also into boxing, which is why we had this great beauty shot of her. With this particular fashion shot, somehow when we captured this in black and white, it feels like an armor, like a knight's armor. Pom really looked strong and graphic, but Pom was just up for it. She's like, whatever it takes, whatever you guys need, I'm game to do it, which we really appreciate. And obviously it turned out really well in the photographs. Here in the fashion section, we feature Filipino models from our second Vogue Faces casting call, which we held during the Vogue Threads Manila in November 2024. This is such a fun experience for us to discover new emerging faces and talents as we go through our Vogue open calls. When we meet new faces or models, we don't necessarily just look at their physical attributes, but we're really more interested in the stories that they have. Some of them have really interesting stories also, overcoming insecurities, for instance. What I liked about this whole experience is the fact that they see the shoot as a way for them to not only become models, but to interact with each other, also hear each other's stories. It doesn't end with just, doing their own layout and then leaving after the shoot. They actually stayed the entire time, just hanging out with one another, getting to know each other's stories. It creates a community for these women. So we really wanted to capture their most authentic self, while of course being garbed in all denim by Levi's. Most of us, we know Nadya as an MTV host back in the 90s, and she's also the host of Asia's Next Top Model for the first 2 seasons. But more than that, she is an eco-activist who used her voice to really champion conservation and environmental advocacies. Obviously, it wasn't an easy task for her to go through, but at the same time, because of that strong sense of purpose, she was able to rally and inspire people to continue to become this voice of hope when it comes to the conservation landscape. It even came to a point where she needed to step back from all of that efforts and really focus on herself. You might think that, when we're talking about wellness, it can appear as a selfish act. But in reality, you're able to acknowledge the fact that you need to take care of yourself first. It's not actually selfish, but rather selfless, because once you get to take care of yourself, you're also able to take care of others around you. We actually shot this in the mountains where the team had to trek. Nadya in particular was the one guiding everyone. Yeah, it's fun, and obviously the photographs turned out really well. We get to capture her in her element. And in this shoot, we had our constant collaborator, Carlos Magubat, who helped us produce the shoot in Australia, which was photographed by Levon Baird. And this time for the culture section, we traveled to Bantayan Island in Cebu, where artist Martha Atienza leads Goodland, a data platform archiving community knowledge, and is recognized for her videos of Bantayan seafarers and their customs. It's interesting how she's able to use art as a means to create dialogue. And it's not just a conversation or a dialogue between people who see their work, but even a conversation within the community itself, because these seafarers don't even talk about their struggles or their livelihood, actually, what they're going through with their own families. These particular artworks are able to spark those conversations within their own community. It becomes a tool for the community to learn about each other and help in supporting each other as well. I guess as a creative, we always reach a point of burnout, and Martha is so brave about opening up to that experience. It's so interesting how she was able to reignite that sense of purpose when she had this conversation with historian Marian Pastor Roses, who advised her that, even though we have this sense of purpose to do great things and to tackle on big problems, it's important that not all solutions have to be big as well. When Martha started this organization, it was the first time that people were asked like what do they want to achieve, what do they need in particular. And in the context of wellness, while Martha has this vision of wellness for the community, it's interesting how the conversations have also flipped once the community shared their ideals on wellness. And that conversation has obviously led to bigger opportunities for the community to thrive. So we have photographer Jacob Mains visit Martha in the Bantayan Island, and what's interesting about this particular layout was the juxtaposition of her portraiture to be projected with her artwork as well. It's kind of a reflection of, her artworks being flashed across Times Square. Jacob did an amazing job capturing this moment. Another facet to one's wellness journey can be expressed through food. And one great example here is Woldy Reyes' story on how he found cooking to be an outlet to express his creativity. And what started out as a personal endeavor in honing his cooking skills, the enjoyment found through hosting dinners, have eventually led with his pursuit to sharing his craft and the Filipino cuisine with the rest of the world. And right now, Woldy is working on his book, In the Cuisine, and we see snippets of his dishes in this issue, and it's quite interesting how, there is that sense of reality with the images that he's capturing. It's not perfectly plated, you know what I mean? And it's organic, it's real. What's great about Filipino cuisine, it's always personal. With Woldy, that's exactly what he brings to the table. As he's working on his book and as he's working on his dishes, he looks at it from a sustainable perspective, wherein he looks at the ingredients that's available to him in New York or wherever he's at, and uses that as a tool for him to create the dishes that is still very Filipino. I think for Filipinos, especially in the diaspora, having more access to Filipino food is a great avenue for us to reconnect with our culture. Food is definitely a means for us to feel at home. For this story, it's nice to see the portraits of Woldy, photographed by Lawrence De Leon, be juxtaposed with the food photography of Fujio Emura. One particular section that I love in every issue is our last word, where we get to highlight a quote from any of our featured personalities to share their particular sentiments that resonates not just with us, but for the entire issue as well. And for this particular wellness issue, we have a quote from Nadya, where she says, "Every person has the potential to be a change maker." And for us, it's really, really empowering to remind ourselves that, again, when you focus on yourself, when you put wellness, your health and wellness at the forefront, you can create change as well. You can be that spark of change for the greater community. At its core, purpose and passion are at the forefront of these stories, which we are very, very proud to share in our May Wellness issue.